So we're going to use one prompt inside of Gemini 3 to build our website. All I'm going to say is build me a website for my AI agency, Chase AI. And we just let it go to work. So here's the landing page it created for us. And what do you notice right away? Well, what you should notice is that this stays away from a lot of the typical AI slop tropes you see everywhere else when you ask it to build you a web page. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. Cheap looking icons, white background, blue and purple gradient, and the same font for everything. And you don't see that here. When I use that exact same prompt inside a Lovable, what do I get? I have a bluish purple gradient. I have the same cheap icons. I have the same font you see everywhere. Again, inside of ChatGPT, just looks cheap. Why is that? Why does this look so cheap? And this looks much more premium, yet we use the exact same prompt. How did we do that? And how can you replicate it? Well, that's exactly what we're going to go over in today's video. But that's not all I'm going to cover today, because it's not enough just to build a landing page inside of Gemini. I'm going to show you how to push it to GitHub, how to set it up inside Vercel so we can actually deploy it and create a CI/CD pipeline. I'm also going to show you how to set up Tally inside of your website, which means we can take this web page we created and actually turn it into a sales funnel, right? We want people to come to our website. We want to get their information. We want to book them. How can you do that? And how can you do it for free? I'm going to show you. Furthermore, I'm also going to show you how we can hook up a very simple end-to-end automation, which then automatically responds to those leads and updates our CRM. Right? And the best part is virtually all of this is free. It's very simple to do. And by watching this video, you can go from 0 to having a pretty cool looking website up and running with a sales funnel in about 30 minutes. So with that, let's get started. So first things first, how were we able to create this web page? Why is this so different from all the AI slop stuff? It's because we were in Gemini, because we do the exact same prompt across all of them. Well, not exactly. The secret isn't that we use Gemini, although I suggest you do because it is brilliant when it comes to UI design. The reason is the system prompt. So what is a system prompt? A system prompt is just an internal set of instructions for an AI system. So the reason that my Gemini website looked like this and the Lovable and ChatGPT one looks so cheap and AI slop-like was because I was using a special system prompt inside of this Gemini system. And so with a system prompt like this, you are able to create websites extremely easily that actually look good. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to dive into the system prompt so you understand how it's working under the hood. So first thing is the design analysis. So it's going to figure out what sort of website you're actually creating, right? What's the design archetype? Is it SaaS? Is it something that's more consumer, something that's more corporate? Based on that, it's going to determine the overall characteristics, the font direction, and the color direction. That being said, if you have a SaaS website you're building, but you want it to be more corporate or enterprise in nature, if you just tell it that, it knows what to do. From there, we move on to the visuals. So in terms of typography, we're going to stay away from things like Enter, which are like the typical AI slop fonts you see over and over again. And instead, we're telling it to import a distinctive font from Google Fonts. Now, what's a distinctive font? Well, that's going to be up to the AI system, but you can also manually tell it what font you want. Now, if you head to fonts.google.com, it will take you here, which is a repository of like 1 billion different fonts. So if you want to choose your own font, but you have no idea what font that would be, just head here and you can find it. Over on the left, they have a bunch of different fonts broken down by things like appearance or feeling or mood, right? Just take a look inside here. They're all free. So if you tell the AI system to use a specific font you find here, it'll be able to do it. Next, we go into color. Again, we never use the AI slop gradient, right? White background, purple, blue gradient. We stay away from that. We also talk about the spacing and layout. Again, we're looking for more modern, ultra premium feelings, right? When I look at this one, you can see over here on the right, this sort of like bento box format. Notice how there's sort of different sizes, the way they're spaced, the way it kind of jumps off the page when I go over it. This all elicits a modern premium feel, which you don't get by default with most AI systems. It then goes into interaction and motion and sort of tactile feedback. Again, what is that? That means, hey, when I go over these boxes, notice how it jumps off the page, right? Gives it the feeling that I'm actually touching it. We then dive into technical requirements like the type of icons we are using. Lastly, we again sort of hit on the common pitfalls that we want to avoid, right? We do not want AI slop. We want it to look like an actual web designer created this. Now, to actually use that system prompt, again, you can create a custom GPT, a custom gem, put that as the custom instructions, or you can literally just copy paste that into the prompt window right here and then give it your prompt and just mention like, hey, these are the guidelines I want you to follow when creating my webpage. So that's the system prompt. That's the secret sauce for creating this. Now, like you saw, I gave it a very simple prompt. All I said was create me a website for my AI agency, and it generated this. You can give it a much more specific prompt, right? You can go into like your actual mission statement. You can go into color palette. You can go into all sorts of things to get something that's much more custom. This essentially is like the default SaaS agency type template it's using. But from here, I can edit it in any way I want. And I can do that just by prompting it. So let's say I didn't like this acid yellow color scheme going on, and I just said, let's change the color scheme to have a dark orange instead of yellow, right? And from there, it's just going to edit it on its own. And you're just going to repeat this process over and over till you get something you like, right? The beauty of the system prompt I've given you is it's just a really strong foundation. And then from there, you kind of just pick and choose what you want to change, what you want to add, what you like, what you don't like. So we see here, change the color scheme, but let's say I thought the background was a little boring. So I could just say something like, add some background animation / lighting that still feels premium, but also catches the eye. And again, this is still rather vague, but Gemini 3 does a really good job of taking your vague prompts and turning it into something that looks good. And so what it gave us wasn't exactly a background animation, but you see kind of a subtle glow effect, which matches the color scheme we're going with. So overall, it actually kind of works. It might be hard to sort of see on the screen, but I do sort of like the subtle approach it came up with. And again, this is something you could iterate over and over with till you get what you want. And when it comes to figuring out what you exactly want, I think it's similar to fonts where oftentimes we don't know what we don't know. And so you need to look for inspiration. You can give Gemini or whatever system you're using screenshots of websites you like and sort of aspects of it you want to sort of rip off. And again, feed it to the AI system and ask it to implement it. And places you can look at for inspiration is websites like Dribbble. That's where I'm at here. It's Dribbble with 3 Bs. If you're also looking for something like specific to call to actions, there's cta.gallery. Another really good one is Supahero, S-U-P-A hero.io. Again, tons of cool websites. You can click on them. It'll show you all the assets. You can even oftentimes jump to the actual website itself. Like with anything with AI, it helps to give it references. You just have to know where to find references you like. So at this point, you're going to continue to iterate till you get this website looking exactly how you want, right? It has the right text, all that good stuff. Now, let's say you complete this website, right? You've gone back and forth with Gemini. You have a web page you're comfortable with. How do we actually get this online? How do we actually deploy this so people can visit it? And then how do we actually include that tally form I was talking about? So when people go here and they click, hey, start audit, it actually works and brings them to the place where I can collect their information. Well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to move it to GitHub. Again, very easy. GitHub's more of a scary coding place for a lot of people, but this is where we're essentially going to take all this code and put it somewhere, right? It's not going to live in Gemini forever. And so to do that, we're just going to click code here. And all you're going to do is you're just going to copy this. So just click inside here, Control A, Control C, and now we're going to head to GitHub. So you're going to go to github.com. You're going to create an account, again, totally free. And then you're going to get to the main page, which is here, and you're just going to hit new. And we're going to give it a name. So we're going to call this YouTube website test. All right. For visibility, we're going to put it on private. That way only you can see it. We don't want it to be public and people messing around with stuff. So private's totally fine. You can leave the rest as is. And now we're going to just create repository. It's going to bring you to this page. You're just going to click create a new file. And then you're going to see this, paste it all in there. Right? At the top, you're going to name your file. I want you to name it index.html. And then you're going to do commit changes. That's essentially like saving it. So you're going to commit. And there you have it. You now have your first GitHub repository with all the HTML for your web page right there. Now what we're going to do is now we're going to host it. Okay, now we're going to go to Vercel, which is also free. And this is where we essentially upload all this code, and it's going to create the web page for us that you can actually visit. So we're going to go to vercel.com. You're going to create an account. But very importantly, when you create that account in Vercel, make sure you log in using your GitHub credentials. All right. Once you do that, and again, I'm going to have links to all these web pages in the description. You're going to go to Overview, and we're going to go to Add New Project. Now, right now we need to import our GitHub repository. And if you successfully connected your GitHub account, you should see your repository show up right here. We're just going to hit import, and all you're going to do is you're going to click deploy. And just like that, you just deployed your website that you created in Gemini out onto the internet. Now, What you probably will want to do at some point is you'll want to come here. You're going to want to add a custom domain because it's going to give you a free but very ugly domain. So we're not going to cover that in this website, right? There's 1,000,001 places online to buy a domain and connect it. But once you have that domain, you'll just click on add domain and you can add it right there. But if we go to our dashboard, you'll see, hey, here's our web page. I can go ahead and visit the web page. And here it is, right? Here's our website. It was that simple. Now you're probably asking, why the heck did we just go through all that GitHub Vercel stuff? Why did we have to connect it like that? Well, what's really nice is now that this is hooked up to our GitHub repository, right? What happens automatically is if I come inside here, inside of GitHub, and I change anything with this page, right? Let's say I was inside of Gemini, right? And I made some edits, right? I changed the colors, I changed what's on there, right? If I then went inside of GitHub and I edited this, I re-uploaded a new HTML file and saved it, it will automatically update our website, right? That funnel of being able to edit something in GitHub and have it automatically essentially update on the web via Vercel, that's the pipeline you need to have, right? And so if you were using something like Lovable, it sort of does that all automatically. But in this case, we're doing it without paying Lovable $40 a month. And you saw how easy it is to set up. So for our next step, we're going to hook up that tally page so we can turn our website into a proper lead funnel. And after we do that, we're actually going to update GitHub so you can see the entire process in action. So to do this, we're going to go to tally.so. You're going to create a free account, and then you're going to go just hit the home page, and we're going to create a new form. We're going to start with a template. And there's a bunch of templates that you can choose from. Now, I'm just going to click the lead generation form template, which is one of the first ones you see here. So we'll just click use template on top. And then from here, you can change whatever you want, right? I can add different things. I can change the names, put whatever you want. Obviously depends on your particular business. But most importantly, we need to customize this so the coloring matches our website and doesn't stick out like a sore thumb. So we're going to go to customize at the top. For theme, we're going to do custom. And now we need to match the font, the background, all of that to what our website looks like. What we're going to do, you're just going to copy all this, right? Everything from the font to the accents. We're going to copy that. We're then going to hop back into Gemini. And I'm just going to tell it, I need to fill out these colors so it matches the website inside of Tally. So I wrote, I'm adding a Tally form, but I need to get the colors right to match the website. What should I edit these values to be? And then I copy pasted it all in. And Gemini comes back with the exact values I need. So I'm going to change the font to outfit and then all the colors to these specific hex values. So now I'm just going to go back to Tally. I'm going to copy paste all these in. And once I've done that, you notice that this fits the website much better than before, right? This actually looks coherent. It doesn't look like we're just slapping this on. Lastly, you're going to go to the settings up here, and where it says send email notifications, we're going to click this. This is the email you're going to get every time someone submits a form on your website. So we'll save the change, back to editor, and then you're going to hit publish. Now what we want to do is we actually want to embed this in our website. So we're going to click pop-up. We're then going to edit this as we want. So I don't want this emoji in here, for example. So I just wanted to show this. And I'm going to hit get the code. And so all I'm going to do is I'm going to copy all this, the first 2/3 of it, head back to Gemini, and I'm just going to give it the code. Say, hey, I want you to add this Tally pop-up to our webpage. So I gave it all that information, and now it's going to add it. So it updated the code, and it made sure that when I click on Start Audit, Deploy Solution, or Request Audit buttons on my webpage, that pop-up's going to show up. So we can test it real quick. If I hit Start Audit up here, here we see the lead gen form, right? So if I put in my name, right, job title, and I add, some information right here, and I hit submit, I'm actually going to get a notification in my inbox that it occurred. And here's that information, right? First name, last name, everything I put in there actually showed up and I got the notification. And so we updated our website with this form, but it's only working inside of Gemini. I want it to actually work on our deployed website. How do we do that whole GitHub thing again? Super easy, same exact process as before. I'm just gonna go to code. I'm gonna copy it all. I'm back on GitHub. I'm inside my repository. I click on index.html. I'm gonna click this pencil up here where it says edit file. And I'm just gonna paste in the update. I'm gonna hit commit changes, right? Commit changes. Now it's saved. Now if I go into Vercel, and if we go to deployments up here on the top, you'll see we now had an updated deployment just a couple minutes ago, and that was because we updated GitHub. So when I head to the main page, I go to visit, and I click on Start Audit, what do we see? Well, we see our lead generation form. And it's that simple when it comes to actually updating your web page based on the changes you made inside of Gemini. So now you've created a website in a couple prompts. You have the code inside of GitHub. You have an automatic deployment system inside of Vercel. And we set up a Tally lead gen form that turns your website into a sales funnel. And we've done this all basically for free. What is left? Well, what's left, if you want to take this up a notch, is to create a automatic response system. Because the way it works now with somebody is if I go on your website and I fill out your lead gen form, sure, you're going to get a notification. But what about the lead? Are they getting automatically notified that they got the information? Or are they even getting automatically notified that you want to work with them, right? Everything's all about speed to lead. How can we set up an automatic system that responds to them? Even more, what if I want this information plugged inside of a CRM so I have a one-stop shop outside of my Gmail that tells me what's going on? Well, let me show you how to do that. So it's actually pretty easy to do, and we're doing this inside of N8N. So let me show you how this automation actually works. So we have a tally trigger right here. What does this tally trigger do? Well, it triggers when the tally form is created, and then two things happen. First, we're going to update our CRM. In this case, as an example, it just updates a Google Sheet that includes all the information that was provided. Secondly, we send all that information from the lead generation form, right? Name, founder, right? Job title, what sort of project they want. It goes to this basic LLM chain. And you can see here, we feed it all that dynamic information from the form. So it changes with every form. And then we also, again, have a system prompt that breaks down how we want the AI system to respond. So it then generates a response. You see an example right here. And then it creates a draft inside of our Gmail. Now you could have it automatically send the email if you like, but for a lot of people, they just want a draft that's ready to go because they kind of want the final say of what gets sent to a potential client. That's all this does, right? Simple for forms, simple for nodes. And just with this addition, you've created an entire system that really can, supercharge your lead gen. Now, there is a couple things you need to actually get this working. You're going to need a Tally API key, and you're going to need to do the Tally N8N integration. So if I'm inside of Tally, I close this out. If I go back to home, I click on my lead gen form that we just created, right? If I go to integrations right here, you see a bunch of integrations that are already pre-built. If I just hit N8N, it'll then bring you to here, which gives you the breakdown of all the Tally trigger node information that you need. Now, as for the API key, and you will need the API key, which again is free, I'm going to go to settings. I'm gonna go to API keys. And then I'm just gonna create an API key. Give it whatever name I want. And then I copy this guy, close it out. Back inside of N8N, let's go to our automation. And then inside of here, I would just create an account, right? It gives me the API key, and then I would just paste that API key in there, connect it, and Tally's all set to go. That's how easy it is. And then from there, it'd be up to you to adjust the system prompt as needed so it sounds like you and your voice, blah, 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 blah. As for the JSON for this will be available inside of Chase AI Plus in the VIP tier. So if you're someone who's more into like the AI agency side of stuff, this will be available for you as well. So before we wrap this up, let's just really quickly talk about some of the real world constraints with creating a web page this way, because there's tons of good stuff that we did, right? Very quickly with a few prompts, we created a pretty good looking website that is, hosted on Vercel, and we turn it into a full-blown lead gen system. But what are the downsides of doing such like a bare metal approach to creating a web page? Well, the thing, like you saw, is this is essentially just a one-page HTML file. If I wanted to create multiple pages, reuse a ton of assets, like really increase the complexity of this beyond a lead funnel landing page, essentially, the efficacy of this approach kind of breaks down, right? Because what you get here is a 90% solution. It's a 90% solution that works for the vast majority of people who just want a web page for their business. If you want something that's much more complex, you're going to have to get out of the Gemini 3 or the AI Studio ecosystem and probably start working in somewhere like Claude Code. And it's very simple to do that now that you've created this HTML foundation. So understand, if you want to increase the complexity, you want to do a lot more with your web page, you're going to have to move outside of what I've taught you. But if that's not you, you just want a landing page, you want to be able to establish your authorities, show some testimonials, get people to book with you, this does their job. And I think it's a pretty neat tool, especially with the system prompt I've given you, because there's a lot of room for customization. So just know the downsides of this approach because there's plenty of upsides, and I don't want you to think that this is the end all be all for AI web design. But this is where we're going to end it. As always, let me know what you thought about this in the comments. Tons of free resources in my free school. If you're looking for more like AI agency type guidance, like you want to start actually selling AI things for real, check out Chase AI Plus. And as always, I'll see you guys around.